Welcome back to Ambika Speaks. My name is Ambika and today we're going to do an event deep dive into the category of impromptu. So, first we're going to look at what impromptu is and how it's defined as a category. Next, we're going to look at some examples of potential topics in the past. Next, we're going to look at what traits of a successful impromptu competitor are. Then we'll look at how this category is judged and what the rules of this category are. And lastly, we're going to look at some testimonials. So what the point of view of this category is from an impromptu competitor. Again, the rules change from circuit to circuit, but we will look at two in this video, the WFCA and the National Speech and Debate Circuits. The information in this video can be pulled from public resources provided by the WFCA and NSDA. So if you want to do any further digging into your own local areas or state chapters, I would recommend checking out their websites first. They have a lot of underused but highly effective resources for beginners all the way up to the pros. Okay, the purpose of impromptu is to develop the skills necessary to quickly provide a responsive statement to a variety of everyday words, phrases, and topics. Now the event description. Impromptu, or IMP, is a public speaking event where students have 7 minutes to select a topic, brainstorm their ideas, outline, and deliver a speech. The speech is given without notes and uses an introduction, body, and conclusion. The speech can be lighthearted or serious. It can be based upon prompts that range from nursery rhymes, current events, celebrities, organizations, and more. The impromptu speaker should be able to quickly create and effectively deliver an original, well-organized, and imaginative interpretation of the designated topic, supported by various materials. The information presented should be well chosen, pertinent, and sufficient to support the central thought of the topic and organized according to some logical plan to produce a complete speech within the time allowed. Now, some samples of past impromptu prompts. Political quotations, music lyrics, mythical creatures, historical women, beach day objects, and movie quotations. Yeah, it takes no expert to see that these are so varied. And that kind of is the category. It's impromptu. You're never gonna know what you're gonna get. Kind of like the box of chocolates. But it's so varied, and I feel for people who compete in impromptu, they have to have like a general knowledge base. Like, you should be able to make up something, well, not make up something, but whip something together in a very short amount of time with your general current knowledge base. So you should be able to talk about beach day objects for as long as you could talk about mythical creatures or political quotations. So this is also definitely for people who are up to date on the current events happening around the world. Okay, now traits of a successful impromptu performer. You should be a quick thinker, have dynamic verbal delivery skills, be a logical thinker, and have a broad knowledge base. I already touched on number 3 already, having a broad knowledge base and how that could help you, but being a quick and logical thinker is also very useful too. Obviously, for very obvious reasons, being a quick thinker can help with this category because you are given a short amount of time to whip up a whole speech on usually a topic that comes out of the blue. And the logicalness, being a logical thinker, is very helpful in the sense that, like you saw in the criteria for evaluation, you need to have that body, like intro, body, conclusion. So being able to logically put out all of your ideas into that speech helps a lot. Having dynamic verbal and delivery skills is also a big plus because you are already devoting so much time to just creating that speech in that short amount of time. You probably won't be able to allocate much resources to kind of prepping how you're going to deliver the speech, which is also very important. So having that that dynamic verbal delivery skills already handy helps a lot. Okay, next up, the criteria for evaluation. This is just basically fancy words for your rubric. The extent to which a direct and well-defined response to the topic chosen was provided, the extent to which the ideas were analyzed and organized, the extent to which the content A supported the response with worthwhile example, data, and personal insight, and B, employed effective language skills including such items as the use of transitions and clear, vivid, appropriate word choices. So, circling back to that personal insight point, that is a very, very powerful thing in impromptu. You can talk about your insight and your own personal thoughts on the topic, and that's probably what your knowledge base is going to be, especially when it comes to random topics you probably don't have that much background with. So using that personal insight to your advantage is a huge plus. Okay, next, individual judges may lower the rank due to profanity or vulgarity. So, especially if controversial topics pop up as one of your prompts, definitely make sure to be less controversial in your response, because that could definitely maybe offend some of the judges who are on the opposing side of whatever side you take on the subject matter. So, and that can definitely affect your score. The extent to which vocal interpretation contributed to the clarity and effectiveness of the presentation, including such items as articulation, pronunciation, volume, rate, pitch, and vocal quality. That's that verbal delivery skills that we were talking about earlier. The extent to which the physical presence contributed to the clarity and effectiveness of the presentation, including such items as facial expression, eye contact, gestures, bodily movement, and poise. So that's also part of that delivery skills we were talking about earlier. Next, the rules of impromptu. It looks like a lot because it kind of is a lot. There's a lot of rules when it comes to impromptu, at least according to the WFCA. Impromptu tests a student's ability to analyze a prompt, process their thoughts, organize the points of the speech, and deliver them in a logical, clear, coherent manner. Students' logic is extremely important here. They must be able to take an abstract idea such as fortune from a fortune cookie and put together a speech that has a thesis and supporting information. That's that very logical and quick thinker aspect. Being able to kind of take fortune from a fortune cookie and talk about that for 7 whole minutes is definitely a skill worth developing. Topics will be chosen from proverbs, objects, and abstract words, events, quotations, and famous people. The speech must be original with the student and must be developed during the round. No pre-written or memorized speeches are allowed. The contestant should be held accountable for strict adherence to the topic drawn and discounted severely for shifting to some other topic of personal preference. So this is another very tricky skill in impromptu. If you are given the prompt to talk about fortune cookies and you end up talking about something completely different, like you shift from fortune cookies to like the restaurant that you get them at, and then you start talking about food chains, that is not going to serve you any good. So being able to stick to the topic that you're given and reel yourself back in if you see yourself kind of branching out from that topic is very, very important. Next, a judge in each section or room shall be provided with an envelope containing a uniform set of topics with different subject area used for each round. The speaker, what I'm about to say right now is basically how the round is going to work. The speaker will then draw 3 topics, immediately choose one, and return the other 2 to the envelope. The speaker then has 5 minutes in which to prepare and present a speech. All you have is that 5 minutes. Timing begins the moment the selection of the topic is made. When the contestant is ready to speak, the judge must be ready to listen and evaluate the speech. Preparation materials are limited to 1 4x6 note card that may be used during delivery, a writing implement, and a timekeeping device. Yeah, this category is very, very intense. Properties and or visual aids are not permitted. Students may not consult any pre-written materials or electronic retrieval devices. Speakers may use a cell phone, but only as a timing device. So this is all from what is in your head already. You can't do any research or anything. Judges may request to verify usage. During the preparation period, the contestant shall not receive advice, information, or suggestions from anyone. Vocal music, if used, should be incidental and not overwhelm the presentation. Now you may be thinking, why on earth would there be singing in a speech, right? But that could be even like a humor element that you use to keep your audience engaged or anything like that. Maximum time limit is 5 minutes with an allowable 15-second grace period. So that's where that circuit to circuit change might happen. Some say 7 minutes, some have the limit of 5, so definitely check with your circuit. There is no minimum time requirement, and a contestant should not be penalized for brevity unless they fail to cover the subject adequately. Any entry exceeding the grace period may not be ranked first in the round, and it's so serious that if all entries in the round exceed the grace period, no first rank shall be given in that round at all. So it's very important that you stay under that 5 minutes, 15-second time limit. Okay, last but not least, let's look at that testimonial from an actual previous impromptu competitor. Impromptu speaking is like jumping into public speaking headfirst. It forced quick confidence and helped me grow as a speaker by giving me the skills to prioritize my decision making to prepare an organized and meaningful speech. One thing I'd like to point out here is that it is quite literally like jumping into public speaking headfirst. It is definitely not for the faint-hearted, but people don't really see the value in this category. Most people actually go running in the opposite direction of this category because it's very scary. Putting yourself out there, being put on the spot to come up with a 5-minute speech. It's not easy, but it is something that teaches you a lot in the long run. And I can confidently say people who do impromptu don't regret it later on. They definitely come out of it with a lot more skills in public speaking, but also being able to come up with content on the spot. Alright, that concludes today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to look out for the next episodes where I will be breaking down national impromptu videos and looking at what made their pieces that amazing. And I will also do another video going into how to write an impromptu speech by looking at the research, structural components, organizing, not really practicing, but performance elements tips too. Thanks! Bye!